99.3 Nigeria Info.
We are the nation's number one talk station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. Good morning, Lagos. How are you today? Welcome to the last hour of the Morning Crossfire. I am Sheriff Quadry, in case you're just tuning in. This is the Morning Crossfire. We usually start at 5 a.m. and it's always very hot from 5 a.m. up until 9, so non-stop. Somewhere in between, from 7:30, we'll bring you sports update on Sports Drive with Premier and the gang. Then we'll be back to continue the hot conversation we always have. This morning, we are taking a look at the economy. We'll also be taking a look at the PIA because it's still dominating discourse all across the country. All right. So the current economic hardship being experienced by all and sundry because every now and again we get calls about how things are expensive in the market, how things are quite unbearable, for some Nigerians. You complained about hiking prices of this, hiking prices of that, but then we hear that the Nigeria's gross domestic product has really and tremendously improved. So in July, the GDP growth data for Q2 2021 released broke a 6-year record. Nigeria's gross domestic product increases by 5.01% in the second quarter of 2021, strongest growth since fourth quarter of 2014. So the National Bureau of Statistics, in its latest report on the second quarter of 2021 entitled Nigeria Gross Domestic Product Reports Q2 2021, released 5 days ago, to be precise, Thursday, 25th, Nigeria's gross domestic product, according to the NBS, grew by 5.01% year on year in real terms in the second quarter of 2021, making 3 consecutive quarters of growth following the negative rates recorded in the second and third quarters of 2020, which we all know what could have caused it. The Q2 2021 growth rate was higher than the minus 6.10% growth rate recorded in Q2 2020 and the 0.51% recorded in Q1 2021 year on year, indicating the return of business and economic activities near levels seen prior to the nationwide implementation of COVID-19 related restrictions. Before the COVID, it was in the positive environment, but during the COVID, we went to negative, -6 to be very precise, Q2 2020. But now we're back in the positives and the government is excited about it. Economists are excited about it. Some are quite doubtful over the data. But let me have Ajuri Ngelale speak to this before we go to the conversation on PIA. Ajuri Ngelale is a Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. He joins me via the telephone this morning. We were supposed to do this on Zoom, but for connection reasons, we couldn't do Zoom. But Ajuri is here via telephone. Ajuri, morning to you.
Good morning to you, my brother, and good morning to the great people of Lagos.
How are you today?
And well, indeed. Thank you.
Indeed. Now, let's talk about this growth in GDP Q2 year on year. What is the atmosphere like in the presidency when MBS released this data?
Well, first and foremost, I think for us, let me speak to this particular report. We respond essentially by not being too up or too down, or too high or too low.
Okay.
We recognize that this isn't any time to be dancing or celebrating because there's still so much work to be done.
Right.
The truth of the matter is that in as much as these results are very, very positive and we're proud of the results, we recognize that until Nigerians feel that the economy is improving in the most practical and functional terms, then we're not going to really be in a position to be celebrating much of anything. And that's what we're working toward. But I think what we do look at in terms of the content of this report with a lot of enthusiasm is the fact that you have now an analysis by the National Bureau of Statistics that clearly shows that we're moving toward a more inclusive economy, where we're seeing growth predominantly coming from sectors that are labor-intensive, actual job-creating sectors, as opposed to just wealth-creating sectors. So we've seen in this report that the services sector, which is well known to be labor-intensive, job-creating, we've seen now growth of about 9.2%, nearly double-digit growth. That would be the highest since 2010. So that's certainly very promising. And then, of course, you'd seen the contribution of the non-oil sector to the GDP rate at about, I think it was 6.7%, the highest since the third quarter of 2014. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. And I think the policies of government, President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, particularly the 2.3 trillion naira economic sustainability plan overseen in implementation by His Excellency the Vice President, has really had an effect. Okay. Just based on the founding ethos in terms of its implementation being that only indigenous Nigerian companies employing only indigenous Nigerian labor, using only indigenous raw materials to reconstruct rural roads across the country. We have the Special Public Works Program with 774,000 young people.
Right.
We have 1.3 million jobs we saved through the Survival Fund, paying the salaries of various MSMEs, 500,000 of them across all states of the Federation. And those are just a few of the components. We have 17,000 houses currently under construction, tens of thousands of workers doing that. And in addition to all of the other major construction projects across the country, particularly there in the Southwest as well. So there's really so much job-creating activity, actually stimulating activity going on within the economy, and we're beginning to see those results.
Indeed. Well, Ajuri, quickly now, I'm glad that you mentioned the areas where this growth is coming from. But economists are actually doubting these numbers. You know why? They're saying that industrialization is still down in this report. They're saying that people are not in the farms. So, I mean, if you want to go by the definition, the real definition of GDP, it speaks to the actual reality on the ground. I mean, if you look at, what GDP is all about, you can say that it's a gross domestic product of a country. It measures the total final market value of all goods and services produced within a country during a given period. You can also say that GDP is a measure of total consumer investment and government spending, plus the value of exports minus import. In Nigeria today, there hasn't been much export apart from crude. So economists are saying that maybe this GDP growth is largely coming from the crude aspect of our economy, because farmers are not in the market. So you can't really put value to the produce from the farms. Most industries are still not back up due to the effect of COVID. And those that are up are not really full steam. They are not going on full steam. So where are the numbers coming from? Those are the questions and many more that economists are putting out as regards this particular figure of GDP growth put out by the MBS.
Yes, thank you very much. I think there are a few kind of issues. Look, that's why I really wanted to start by emphasizing the fact that there's so much work to be done that there's really no time to be clapping about this. I think for us, the idea that's being peddled in some quarters, though, and this is why there's always going to be some measure of politics being played, particularly ahead of a general election cycle. There are going to be those who say, well, look, this one just natural reaction to reopening the economy after COVID. If that was true, and it had nothing to do with government intervention, nothing to do with economic stimulus, nothing to do with all of the major interventions in terms of the job-creating activities of the policies of government, then you would have seen this kind of growth and beyond in many countries around the world that are either still battling with recession or marginal 1%, 0.5% growth that you're seeing on average around the world right now. So that's number one. Number two is, where we can really make even more progress. Like you mentioned, agriculture, I think we grew at about just a little over 1%. So we recognize that if we could have had a greater growth in the agricultural sector, that we might not be talking about 5% GDP growth. We maybe talk about something closer to double digits, right?
Right.
So there is still work to be done. I think one of the major challenges, and Nigerians know this very well, is the security challenges we're having in the Northwest and North Central have certainly had an impact.
That's right.
On our productive capacity in the agricultural sector. Where we're beginning to see a turnaround, kind of a reduction in casualties as we're moving forward, as our operations in the zone are intensifying. we're hoping that we're going to see a commensurate rebound in agricultural kind of productive output over the course of the next quarter. But we also think that there's something to be said about the fact that as you look into some of the other subsectors of the economy, I mean, the quarter on quarter, out of about 42 subsectoral economic activities, I believe 35 or 34 had improved from the last quarter. So I think what's important for us is, in as much as you've been hearing a lot of analysis of the year-on-year, 2020 versus 2021, one of the things we're enthused about is that from even the quarter-on-quarter, the first quarter 2021 to the second quarter 2021, we're seeing steady progression in about 80% of the subsectoral economic activities. And then in transportation, my brother, this is a very major one, where we're seeing a lot of growth. We have been actively unlocking private capital to complement the unprecedented public expenditure allocations for infrastructural development under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. Specifically, this year, you'd recall that we took out another round of we engaged the bond market again with Sukuk bonds of about 162 billion, reconstructing 44 federal roads across the country. These Sukuk roads, that was a major investment coming from the private sector. And secondly, we have been working through Executive Order 007, which is the road tax credit and refurbishment scheme, working with companies like Dangote, who is reconstructing as we speak the Apapa Aworon-Shoki Tollgate Road in exchange for calibrated tax relief over the next several years. We're doing the same thing on Boni Bodo Road with NLNG, 200 billion naira road, a major road linking NLNG on Boni Island to the mainland for the first time in history. MTN is currently, I think they're commencing construction next month on the Onitsha-Enugu Expressway. They're going to totally reconstruct that road and expand it in exchange for calibrated tax relief. So we've been working with the private sector to really kind of undo these infrastructural bottlenecks, in addition to all of the government expenditure on the major projects such as the Second Niger Bridge, the Lagos-Shagamu-Ibadan Expressway, both of which are being completed next year, and so many others across the country.
Go on, land on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that when you look at the wide raft of activities in the construction sector and transportation, you'd find that, I mean, these are hundreds of thousands of jobs that simply just would not be there if these investments weren't being made. We have Zungero hydroelectric dam coming on stream, 700 megawatts next year in Niger State, 215 megawatt gas-fired power plant in Kaduna coming on stream next year. Airports across the country coming on stream. Aminu Kano International Airport is coming on stream early next year. The new Murtala Mohammed International Airport terminal in Lagos coming on stream the first part of next year. And the Akano Ibiam International Airport terminal coming on stream in the first part of next year. And of course, Port Harcourt International Airport was done about 2 years ago. So, I mean, just across sectors, new ports, new railways. I mean, you just name it. There's so much going on. Even the Kaduna Kano extension, rail extension is being completed within the next 18 months. By next year, that will also be completed. So it's just so much work going on, and that's why you're beginning to see the non-oil sector really taking off with actual job creating, stimulus.
I want to talk to you about that job creation that you mentioned just now, but let's leave that till after the break because I'm almost due for another break in a couple of minutes, so we can have time to really, dive deep into that question of job creation. But let's use the remaining few seconds or so that we have to take maybe a call before we go on that break. And here from Lagos this morning, I'm from wherever, if you're using our mobile app from wherever you are. You heard if you are interested about the economy, if you are a direct player, everybody's a player in the economy, but if you are a job provider, for instance, or a worker, for instance, this is where the conversation gets to you as to what you feel about the GDP, how you interpret the GDP growth in Nigeria. Like Ajuri said, it's not yet Uhuru yet. There's still it's not Uhuru yet. There's still a lot to be done. It's not time to roll out the drums and start dancing. But let's get this call in. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Morning to you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Good morning to you.
Okay, my name is David Olatunji.
David.
I'm calling from the island.
Welcome, David.
With all the facts and figures that your speaker this morning have reeled out, I'm beginning to doubt if actually the Nigeria is talking about. If he's actually talking about the Nigeria harm or the Nigeria that we are thinking about. Now, you cannot talk about the success of an economy without looking at other variables. You now pick the GDP. What about variables or facts about ease of doing business and every other thing? That's one. We are talking about our GDP growing month on month for 2 quarters now. Come down to the street.
Yeah.
It's not having impact on the economy. So for me, all that we've heard this morning, for me, I don't think it's about those facts and figures are actually about Nigeria.
Okay.
Maybe from another country. Thank you.
Thank you for calling me. Appreciate it. Ajuri, let's go to break. When we return, we'll attend to that caller's concerns, and then we'll talk on unemployment figures in Nigeria. Lagos will be right back. Stay with us. Still more Morning Crossfire on Nigeria Info 99.3. Ajuri Ngelale joins me via the telephone. We'll be back in a moment.
This is a public service announcement. Ongoing recruitment for an independent brand manager at an international company with the most history worldwide. Do you have a car and a valid driver's license? Are you enterprising with a positive attitude, ready to take advantage of an amazing business opportunity? If so, please call 081 5705 0505 or 0905 6374258 to book for an interview.
More talk, news, and sports after this. The African Insurance Organization, AIO, the umbrella organization for insurance company in Africa, invites professionals, the academia, and stakeholders to the 47th Conference and Annual General Assembly taking place in Nigeria from the 4th to 9th of September 2021. Venue, Eco Hotel and Suites, Adetokumbo, Ademola Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. To register for the conference, visit the AIO website on www.africaninsurance-events.org. Please note, all COVID-19 protocols will be strictly observed. We wish all delegates to the 47th Conference and Annual General Assembly fruitful deliberations. Signed, Mrs. Ebele Chukwuwachuku, Chairman, Local Organizing Committee. Guy, I don't have since I begin use Biggie Bets, I just cash out anyhow. You mean I'm dead there? See, then they offer 120% welcome bonus, bigger odds, 315% accumulator bonus, cut one bonus, and you fit even cash out anytime, whether inside shop or online. They even get the best virtual games and jackpots. See, they even they pay instantly. Oh boy, choose bigger rewards. Visit www.biggiebets.com to sign up or become an agent now. Biggie Bets, bigger reward, bigger life.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce a remarkable set of people. They are the resilient gold medalists, changing the narrative of what it means to be unstoppable. They are champions, nourished by peak milk, set to defy the odds again. Welcome, the Unstoppable Team. Look out for them at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics game from 24th of August to 5th of September 2021. Brought to you by Peak Milk.
Peak, rich for your peak.
Conductor, give me change.
Conductor, I beg my change.
You be like say you deaf, abi? I say me and this woman collect this money go find you.
Hey, conductor, you want to PM me? Do you know who I am?
Where they do this one?
I am Laburu, God's worst punishment in a person.
This one they watch King of Boys. You never even watch part 2.
That's right. Catch Shola Shobowale as Eniola Salami in The King of Boys 2 on Netflix Mobile for 1,200 naira per month. That's right. You get access to King of Boys 2, The Return of the King, and plenty of your favorite Hollywood and Nollywood movies and series on your mobile phone for 1,200 naira per month. Sign up on netflix.com.
Hooray! It's back to school season again. Laterna is ready to usher our young scholars back to school with our mega deals. Parents, schools, and corporate organizations generations that visit either of our stores to buy back-to-school essentials from August 30th to September 30th, 2021 will enjoy 10% discount, while orders above 10,000 naira on our online store will attract free delivery within Lekki Phase 1 and 2, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, and Marina. Laterna back-to-school essentials include school bags, notebooks and journals, children books, pencil cases, filing accessories, educational toys, and writing materials. Visit us today at 12B and 13, Okwawo Street, opposite Eco Hotel, Victoria Island, Lagos, or shop at www.laternabooks.com. Please call or WhatsApp us on 0803-301-4462 or 08010-023-4441 for details. Laterna, lifestyle hub for book lovers.
When you find out you're pregnant, it's like there are a million stretch mark products to choose from, but you trust other mothers. And that's how I discovered Bio Oil, and I'm still using it every day.
Bio Oil helps improve the appearance of scars, stretch marks, and uneven skin tone. Bio Oil is available in all leading pharmacies and shops. Bio Oil is also available online on Jumia on the Bio Oil official store. For more information, please contact Bio Oil Nigeria on Facebook. To identify original Bio Oil products, look out for the Sproxel, scratch, and text pin. Bio Oil Skincare Oil is clinically proven as safe for its intended use by adults, including pregnant women. In the unlikely use of skin irritation, please discontinue use.
Hey, Doredo, better itself. Now 10 gigabyte data just land my Airtel so. Guess how much? 3,000 naira. 3K for 10 gigabyte data. You shock, Abi? Make I add extra shock. 5,000 naira go give you 20 gigabyte data. Now so be self for shock. Oh.
That's right. With Airtel data, just a little more gets you so much more. Introducing Airtel More for More data plans, like 10 gigabytes for just 3,000 naira and 20 gigabytes for 5,000 naira. Dial *141# today.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
There are lots of accomplished women in the construction industry who are architects, surveyors, civil engineers, masons, and so on. They began just like you, but guess what? There are even bigger fun opportunities for you too in the construction industry today. Come join us. We can't wait to work with you.
If you want to immediately kickstart a career in construction, send a mail to info@interbellfoundation.org or SMS I am interested to 0818 596 6092.
African Insurance Organization, AIO, the umbrella organization for insurance company in Africa, invites professionals, the academia, and stakeholders to the 47th Conference and Annual General Assembly taking place in Nigeria from the 4th to 9th of September 2021. Venue, Eco Hotel and Suites, Adetokumbo, Ademola Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. To register for the conference, visit the AIO website on www.africaninsurance-events.org. Please note, all COVID-19 protocols will be strictly observed. We wish all delegates to the 47th Conference and Annual General Assembly fruitful deliberations. Signed, Mrs. Ebele Chukwuwachuku, Chairman, Local Organizing Committee.
When I was 5 months pregnant, I started using Bio Oil for stretch marks. I must say, if I'd known about it before, I would have started using it earlier. I've been really impressed with the results.
Bio Oil helps improve the appearance of scars, stretch marks, and uneven skin tone. Bio Oil is available in all leading pharmacies and shops. Bio Oil is also available online on Jumia on the Bio Oil official store. For more information, please contact Bio Oil Nigeria on Facebook. To identify original Bio Oil products, look out for the Sproxel, scratch, and text pin. Bio Oil Skincare Oil is clinically proven as safe for its intended use by adults, including pregnant women. In the unlikely use of skin irritation, please discontinue use.
99.3 Nigeria Info, your number one station for talk. Let's talk. This is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
We are the nation's number one talk station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. I am Sheriff Quadry. Welcome back to the Morning Crossfire. We're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. This morning we're talking economy. Right now we're talking economy. Later on we'll delve into the conversation around the PIF But right now, let's quickly wrap up our conversation on the economy. Ajuri Ngelale is with me on the show this morning. Ajuri is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. Ajuri, thank you again for joining us on the show this morning.
The privilege is mine, my brother. Thank you.
Let's quickly address the caller before the breaks concerns about the figures that the data and the statistics that you're reeling out before the break, and the actual experience on the streets.
Right. Thank you very much. And I just want to thank my brother also for taking time to participate in the program and calling in. Where I started from was identifying with that, right? The fact that you have a lot of work that still has to go on. The truth of the matter is we are still recovering from a once-in-a-century global pandemic. We're not alone. Most nations around the world are going through the same thing. I think when you have inflation at 17%, you're not going to be dancing, not in the State House and not anywhere. We recognize that we have now had about 4 consecutive months of a reduction in the inflation rate, but it's still at 17%. Even if it's coming from nearly 19% down to 17%, we can't celebrate that. But what we've said is that we're moving in the right direction, and that's very important, because if we were moving in the wrong direction, then everybody would be very, very much alarmed and all of that. So it's good to be moving in the right direction. The question now is, how can we expedite that journey in the right direction and take further steps in the right direction? And that's really what government is focused on. If you recall, during the Great Recession of 2014, 2015, at least in this country, one of the things that we might remember is that inflation flew up to about 19%. Before President Muhammadu Buhari had brought to bear the social investment programs for the first time, all of the infrastructural projects that are now moving to completion were just starting then, 2015, 2016. So now we had seen inflation drop for about almost 30 consecutive months, down to about 11% before pandemic now comes and hits again, and now we're talking about high inflation. So we're going to work it back down, and hopefully we're not going to have another pandemic or anything like that would take us back into an unusual situation.
Let's talk about unemployment, Ajuri. Unemployment is quite high, because when you talk about GDP, you can't separate it from unemployment or employment figures of the said country. We have 33% in unemployment figures in this country, and people are wondering, where again, if you're saying that the job creating sectors are the ones driving this new GDP growth, where are the jobs?
A very important question. So there are two major issues here, okay, to unpack. The first thing is, to my brother's call, to what he mentioned, the notion that, are we talking about Spain? This doesn't sound like Nigeria that we're talking about. I would just remind all of us that the projects I've mentioned are things that can be verified.
Okay.
So if when we talked about the Lagos Ibadan high-speed rail line, for example, I remember I was out discussing it on radio stations just like this one, and people go, audio project, propaganda. We don't hear this one before, but when it's being used, right, and operated, nobody says anything, right? That's generally the trend of things. So across the country, you are having these projects, and they're coming on stream. The Wari Itakpe rail line, I didn't even mention that. The multi-billion-dollar AKK gas pipeline that's under construction right now. I didn't really even go into some of those. So there's really quite a lot going on. I don't think anybody doubts at this point the president's sincerity when it comes to infrastructural development. Anyone in that axis is seeing what is going on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, for example, and there are just so many others that I've not mentioned across the north, the middle belt, and other places. So that's that. But I think to your question about unemployment, there are two major issues. Number one is, if you look at the fact that right now we have a kind of a population dynamic that obviously 70% of our population is under the age of 30. We have a youth bulge. Right now, the real implication, the functional implication, is that you have over 2 million Nigerian youths coming into the labor force every year, meaning that even if the government successfully creates 1 million jobs every single year, new jobs every single year, which would be by far the highest in the history of the country, right? 1 million jobs every year from government alone. it would the unemployment rate in the country will still grow.
Where are these jobs being created? Where?
No, that's no. I'm not saying no. What I'm not saying that we have created 1 million jobs every year. That's not what I said.
Okay.
I'm saying that I'm speaking hypothetically about how this thing is running.
Okay.
If government created 1 million jobs every single year, right, which would be the highest any government has ever done, right, in this country.
Okay.
Now, if you're able to do that and you have 2 million young people coming into the labor force every single year, right, because of our population dynamic, the unemployment rate will still grow because you would still need to create 2 million jobs just to leave the unemployment rate static, to leave it where it is, not to speak of improving on it. So we know that it's not government alone that is going to address unemployment. The way that you address unemployment is by dealing with the core bottlenecks. These are the things like infrastructure, making sure that you have things like roads, railways, airports, seaports, power plants, dams, making sure that you have a conducive business environment. Your regulatory frameworks have been adjusted. Things like, CAMA, things like business registration, things like dealing with import, export processes at the ports, things of this nature. Tax administration, the ease of tax payment. I mean, there's so many different factors. Now, we are this has been an open thing now. Through the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, under the leadership of His Excellency the Vice President, Nigeria has been named 2 out of the last 4 years as a top 10 most improving nation in the world in the ease of doing business, not by APC, not by some friendly think tank in Nigeria, but by the World Bank, who has no reason to make Nigeria feel good about itself if it's not reflecting what the actual reforms that we've undertaken. We've seen under this administration business name registration cut down from weeks and months down to just days, under a week. In many cases, 72 hours. We've seen automated tax payments. Now you can go online, conveniently calculate and pay your taxes in a way that was not possible before this administration.
Ajuri, let's not lose focus of the question I asked. Right, yes. I'm asking the question so that we can bring proper perspectives to the conversation around employment generation and employment as a whole. Nigeria in 2015, we had an unemployment figure of 9.9%. This is 2021, and we're dealing with 33% still rising. How does that help in our economic recovery? How?
My dear brother, that's why I said there were two issues. I'm addressing one. As I speak to you, I'm actually addressing it. Because if you're talking about unemployment, you know that no government in the world employs all of its people. You know that. Even in China,
that's right.
With Chinese characteristics, it's the private sector that has largely brought all hundreds of million people out of poverty.
Right.
So what I'm talking about, when I talk about ease of doing business, when I talk about infrastructure, power, and all of these other things, this is the stuff that this is government's role in providing these things so that the private sector comes in and deals with the unemployment question, right? So that's the point that I'm actually making, and point number one. But the second point is that you cited the 2015 9%. Do you believe, does any Nigerian truly believe that in 2015 or in any other year in this country's history, that out of the, let's just even be modern and let's be current, 200 million people, do you believe that at any point in the history of this country, 180 million people, or 150 million people were employed? I don't believe that you believe that.
Right.
So the problem is, when we talk about our data, this is a major problem because it goes both ways. It can be overly optimistic and it can also be overly pessimistic, depending on how you look at it.
Okay.
Right now, one of the weaknesses of our data, and the president has been very clear about this with the NBS, of what can we do to reform the process of statistical,
data gathering
and assessment,
yeah.
is the issue that right now, we have 80% of the country's economy running from the informal sector. These are businesses who have not been registered.
That's right.
They're not necessarily paying taxes and all of that. Now, right now, in rural communities across the country and even in urban centers. People operating market stalls, hiring one or two other Nigerians and all of that. Proper micro businesses. Many of them are being counted in the National Bureau of Statistics unemployment report as unemployed, number one. And as a result of them being tabulated as unemployed, they're also being tabulated as under the poverty line, basically as zero income. So now, these are people who not only pay themselves, are feeding themselves, they're actually feeding and paying other Nigerian salaries, but they're not being tabulated because most of what is tabulated are formal organizations, things like banks, telecom companies, oil and gas companies, government, civil servants, and all of that. So we are saying that we're talking tens of millions of Nigerians who are not being tabulated in the unemployment report as it is today. So there's really a lot of work that has to go on. And it's not about making government look good or looking bad. It's about making sure that you have accurate, verifiable data. So that future government policy interventions can be accurately tailored to what the reality is on ground.
It's funny you mentioned that because even economists that I've spoken to ever since MBS released these new GDP figures are saying that the figures may have been a little bit exaggerated.
My brother, if it's recession figures, we're talking about unemployment, though.
Yeah.
Not the issue of when you're talking about capital, or you're talking about the growth of industries. These are things that are tabulated on the basis of the industries that are on the ground.
That's right.
So it's not like an unemployment report where you're not factoring in a lot of things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
I'm
if you have
with
an
you.
unemployment report, there are a lot of things that based on your process of data collection, you're not even factoring in. So that, like I said, hundreds of thousands or millions of micro enterprises are not being factored in. Millions of entrepreneurs in Nigeria are not being factored in. But when you're talking about GDP, you're talking about established industries that can be effectively monitored, capital that can be seen, and all of that. It's not it's in and out and all of that. These are things that are measurable, just like the stock market.
Let's take one or two calls, then we go to PIA very, very quickly. Time runs so fast on this program. So quickly. Let's take this call here. Let's see who is it. Oh, yeah. If you're just joining us, apologies. For those who are just joining us, 0700 993 993 993 is our studio line. That's 0700 993 993 993. And we're talking about the economy, how it affects you as a Nigerian. Ebuka is joining us. This one, let's speak with him very quickly. Ebuka, hi. Morning to you. Morning, Ebuka.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Honestly, we enjoy the analysis and data that is in the paper. I don't know, because if you go to the streets, I don't know whether they are feeling this in when you talk of inflation, when you talk of all these things, because it's high. Now, I want to ask, the policy that is being played around security, because it affects businesses when it comes to logistics, transportation.
That's right.
What is the government body language? Are they not addressing it? Or is it just that because I remember when I was at the 2016, they're down on the line. You see these guys come and buy phone, they transport it down the north. But these days, you see people, they don't do it again. So what is the government doing about it? Then again, talking about policies, the government, when they talk policies, and you see the policies not helping the people in the business line, come to, Twitter is outside of it. Some these policies, and you see people are paying big in tax, and these are government policies. So how is it affecting us? How is it bettering our lives? Is alarming. Jerry, thank you.
Thank you, Ebuka, for your concerns. Appreciated. Ajuri, let's address that.
Okay, yes, absolutely. So, one of the responses I was going to give to even the first caller and now the second caller, when you look at the survival fund, for example, you had millions of Nigerian workers across all states of the Federation, across all local government areas of the Federation that received salaries month after month directly from the survival fund, from the federal government intervention. So the notion that nobody is feeling this thing, that it's just grammar, that we're just coming to talk, when in fact the interventions we've made are actually the ones that have gotten into the hands of ordinary people. When we were doing the social investment programs, one of the things that we heard was, why are you giving 10,000 naira to petty traders? Is it not a joke? And all of that. But if you speak to the petty trader who was doing business with 200 naira plate of pomo, right? They spend all day in the sun sweating and all of that, and they come away with 350 naira, 150 naira profit to take home at the end of a very long day. You would know that 10,000 naira to such a person is not a joke, because not everybody is middle class. Not everybody can afford to take, a taxi and Uber and all these things in the middle of our urban centers like most people do, buy recharge card and all of that. That's not how many of our people are living in the rural communities. So what we are saying is that when we get these interventions down to the grassroots, down into the hands of people where the shoe is really pinching the foot, you will know that there's an impact. And I believe when you see the stimulus taking an effect on the economy from the non-oil sector particularly, my brother, one of the most underreported parts of this GDP report was the fact that you had a contraction, a dip in oil and gas contribution to GDP. And you would think that government would be sad about that or something. But we actually looked at it the other way. We said, look, the fact that we could grow at this rate, right, after several years, at the highest rate in several years, at a time when oil and gas dipped with all the OPEC production and, curbs, the global oil production embargo of last year, global oil shipment embargoes because of the oversupply in the international market, and all of these other things that were going on last year. And we still grew at this rate, speaks to the fact that with all of the stimulating activities from the non-oil sector, the productive sectors of the economy, I think that's just really very exciting for us, because we know that in the Post-Petroleum Industry Act era, we're about to see an unprecedented mobilization of investment into that sector in this country.
Indeed. Just to add to what you mentioned earlier, and this is not me speaking for the government, ease of doing business, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you want to register your business with the CAC, is quite smooth and fast. I've had people who've been able to do it on their own in a matter of minutes, and they're done.
Absolutely.
So it's again, just to speak to what you mentioned earlier about some of the changes, and in the new report put out by the MBS, agricultural sector grew by 1.30%, which is good. Education grew. Public administration also grew. Non-oil sector grew in 6% in the real terms. Also grew. So those are the figures that the MBS put out. But let me hear from Nigeria. If they've got questions for you this morning. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, Sheriff, good morning.
Morning to you.
Yeah, how are you today?
Very well.
Yeah, you're doing a good show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Please, I want you to ask your guest here to reconcile this. All these infrastructure they are pushing, he's ruling out. Are they doing it based on the revenue they generated or from the loan that they collected? Because it's easier to go and collect money after building infrastructure without putting in mind how you are going to repay the money you borrowed to get all those infrastructure, and how they intend to wipe up the debt, the loan that they collected. Thank you.
All right, Ajuri, quickly.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Before I go into the Petroleum Industry Act, I would just say very quickly on this issue of infrastructural funding that we've been very, very diverse about that. We've used multifarious means. So, for example, I already mentioned some of it on this program, that we've unlocked private capital very creatively with, some of the major private sector players in the country, Dangote, MTN, and some others, reconstructing roads and even expanding existing roads using private sector capital, and then paid back very innovatively over the course of the next several years, a calibrated tax relief. That's one form. The other one is straight budgetary allocation. So we just outright pay for it, right? Over time, over successive budgets. So for example, under Ministry of Works budget, one project will take 15% of it in 2015, 15% 2016, until it's completed over the course of maybe 5 years. We've been doing that. Then, of course, we've not made any secret about the fact that we've borrowed to fund infrastructure. And yes,
Ajuri, we have to go.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. I would have loved to have broken that down. Okay. Well, let me just say, in conclusion, it's much better to borrow to fund infrastructure that will pay back through tolling and other forms and fashions than to borrow to steal.
Ajuri, thank you.
So we're making progress.
Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
It's been a great program.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. That's our show.
This is an infomercial.
Hey, what's going on? It's your Deals Plug, and as usual, I've got the most fantastic information on the market, and it's